The institution of slavery in the Americas was a brutal system built on absolute power and profound dehumanization. While much historical focus rightly centers on the immense suffering of enslaved women, the experiences of enslaved men, particularly concerning sexual exploitation, often remain less explored. This narrative delves into a challenging and often uncomfortable aspect of this history. It examines the documented instances of sexual coercion and abuse perpetrated by white women and their daughters against enslaved black men. This was a facet of slavery that further complicated the already horrific power dynamics. Understanding these interactions requires a careful and objective historical lens. Slavery was fundamentally a system of total control, where enslaved individuals were considered property. This meant their bodies, labor, and lives were subject to the absolute will of their enslavers. This power imbalance created an environment ripe for all forms of abuse. Within this system, white women, though often subordinate to white men in patriarchal society, still held immense power over enslaved people. They were part of the dominant class, benefiting directly from the institution of slavery. This position allowed for the exercise of authority, including sexual coercion. Historical records and survivor testimonies reveal that enslaved black men were also targets of sexual exploitation. While less frequently discussed than the widespread rape of enslaved women by white men, these instances were a documented reality. Such acts were another manifestation of the enslaver's absolute power. These encounters were never consensual, regardless of any superficial appearance. The inherent power differential meant that enslaved men could not truly consent to sexual acts with their enslavers. Refusal carried severe and often deadly consequences, including brutal beatings, sale, or even death. Some historical accounts and narratives from formerly enslaved people describe instances where white women, including mistresses and their daughters, initiated sexual encounters with enslaved men. These acts were rooted in the power dynamics of the plantation. They were not expressions of mutual desire. These relationships were a profound violation of the enslaved man's autonomy and dignity. They further underscored the complete lack of bodily integrity afforded to enslaved individuals. Such acts were a stark reminder of their subjugated status. The motivations behind these acts were complex and varied. They could stem from a desire for control, a perverse expression of power, or a lack of other outlets within the restrictive social norms of the time. However, none of these motivations justify the inherent abuse. For the enslaved men, the consequences were devastating. They faced psychological trauma, humiliation, and the constant threat of violence. They could be punished by white male enslavers if the acts were discovered, regardless of who initiated them. This created an impossible and dangerous situation. Evidence of these occurrences can be found in various historical sources. These include slave narratives, court records, and the writings of abolitionists and historians. While not as extensively documented as other forms of abuse, the accounts are consistent. These testimonies provide crucial insights into the lived experiences of enslaved men. They highlight the multifaceted nature of sexual violence within slavery, extending beyond the more commonly discussed dynamics. These narratives are vital for a complete understanding of the period. The historical reality of sexual exploitation of enslaved men by white women is a difficult truth. It challenges simplistic narratives and forces a deeper examination of power, race, and gender during slavery. Acknowledging this history is crucial for a comprehensive understanding. This aspect of slavery contributed to the profound and lasting trauma experienced by enslaved communities. It also played a role in the complex and often distorted perceptions of Black masculinity and sexuality that persisted long after emancipation. Understanding these historical roots is essential. The history of slavery is replete with unimaginable suffering and systemic abuse. It is imperative to acknowledge all forms of exploitation, including the sexual coercion of enslaved men by white women. This recognition is not about assigning blame to specific individuals. Instead, it is about understanding the pervasive and dehumanizing nature of the institution itself. By confronting these uncomfortable truths, we gain a more complete and accurate picture of the past. This deeper understanding is vital for historical analysis and educational purposes.